To welcome you all to our webinar today, Did We Turn Our Challenges into Success? Well, Tracy and I both are part of the Mental Health Further Education research project that's run over the last 2 years. We're both part of 57 different groups that were part of this research. I ran the Learning Well project that was Kent, and Tracy ran the Evolve project, which was the project for Luton. We've come back today to share our journey really through the past year. We did initially do a webinar called Opportunities and Challenges, and now we're really just wrapping that up as to how everything went for us. We want to see what we've achieved from what we've done, and has everything we've done been successful? For those of you who don't really know how the project worked, there were 3 different groups involved. There were Group A, who delivered courses to support people with mild to moderate mental health conditions, and the courses were focused on helping those people with those specific conditions. These were things like anxiety, sleeplessness, panic attacks, low moods. And that Group A is the group that Tracy was delivering in Luton. There was another group, Group B, and that was general adult education courses, so art, language, creative writing, etc. And these also were for people with mild to moderate mental health conditions. And then Group C, which was the final group, that is the delivery we did in Kent, were general adult education courses for groups where 50% of the people had mild to moderate mental health conditions and 50% of the people did not. So that was showing how being in a supportive group with people that weren't necessarily in the same space as you might work. Now, none of this was directed to people who had scored higher, on the mental health condition scale. People that needed secondary health or more intervention, that's not our expertise. This was about education and courses and learning and how that supported people on the lower end of the mental health scale. We have put 3 sections in our webinar where you're welcome to ask questions or share your experiences. So if you do so, that would be really well appreciated. We're going to move on to the challenges now, and we'll start off with Tracy's experiences in Luton.
Okay, so challenges that we first faced, we're going to mention quite a bit about IAG because that was one of the big challenges that we all faced. In year 1, the IAG, Initial Assessment and Guidance, was mainly based around the PHQ GAD7 short WebWebs questionnaires that we all used throughout the project, years 1 and 2, just to screen the learners to see if they were eligible. Moving forward from that, though, we all discovered that we needed more of a robust form of initial assessment and guidance throughout. And all of us in year 2 used the Discovering Potential Wheel, a couple of screenshots that are up on the screen there that just show you, just to help us initially assess that we had the right learners for the programme, and that we were supporting them in the right ways, looking at what they wanted to get from the programmes that they were signing up to do. And this was a model that was used throughout, and the wheels were used throughout to help support their learning at various different stages. Now, for us, one of the challenges that we highlighted in year 1 were that we weren't giving enough IAG support to our learners. So in the time frame between April and July in year 1, we actually adapted and added some more robust IAG processes to our courses, where we had just a one-to-one session with the learners to find out what they particularly wanted, what they were looking for to get from their course, how we could support them, and all of the elements that went with that. So we'd already started that process that actually, when we moved into year 2, it really helped us meet the requirements that the project required, and it was everything going digitally rather than paper-based. So we'd found that building in a more robust process for ourselves actually helped our sort of transition into year 2 much better, because we were already offering more substantial IAG elements to that. So the changes that we then had to meet for the project weren't that bad because there was already that in place. We did need some additional training for staff to use the electronic equipment, but other than that, the process was quite a seamless change for us. So that worked really, really well. As we mentioned in our previous seminar, we were put into Group A, which for us initially was a major challenge because it was quite far removed from the type of delivery that we were doing. But that said, when we'd unpicked everything, we found Group A gave us lots more opportunities to develop new programs, new types of sessions, new types of courses, and we were also able to sort of look at bolting in other elements that sort of met the needs of our learners that we weren't able to necessarily do under our general community provision. So we found that actually being involved, I actually went along to some of the initial planning sessions that the project held in London right at the beginning, and that really helped me process what I needed to do, the type of courses that we needed to put together to help us meet the Group A remits that we had around, the courses had to mention mild to moderate symptoms, had to address those issues, and had to encourage the learners to talk about their thoughts, their feelings, and their general well-being throughout the course. So that really helped, being part of that initial process helped me move forward with that. And as a result, we've actually continued to offer some of the courses. We've changed them slightly, but this year we're still managing to offer them under our community provision because they made such a difference, we felt, to some of the learners that we were working with. Patricia.
Okay, so interestingly enough, we were delivering type A style courses and were put into Group C. So Tracey and I almost had the reverse experience, although we found that Group C worked really, really well for us. Our tutors were fantastic. They really rose to the occasion. We managed to keep a really good core team in the end, and that was far more efficient for me for running several courses with the same tutors rather than keep retraining new staff, because these tutors seemed to really get it and were really good. We managed to overcome the negative approach that we found to the IAG paperwork initially. We did this quite quickly because we just put in a positive mental attitude and looked at all the positives, and that's what we spoke about, and it really, really helped everybody to get on board. To begin with, the students were a little bit unsure about the benefit of this process, but once they'd been through it, they found that it was really, really beneficial. It was going to be beneficial to us, to the project, to them as individuals, and really to adult learning as we move forward. We made some really good new partnerships, and that was fantastic. Fresh relationships that we can move forward into the 17-18 delivery as well. For example, we're currently in discussion with local job centres to see if we can help some of their service users who have barriers to learning. Some of these barriers being mild to moderate mental health issues. So we're really excited to be able to work with the DWP with this new venture. Our challenge will be encouraging people to join the courses, but being able to show them the benefits of attending will really help us move forward. Once the MHFE project results are completed and they're published, we'll be able to use this with our marketing, so that will be really good, and we're looking forward to doing that next year. We're also in initial discussions with the NHS about being involved in a recovery college that's being launched next year in Kent. We've just had the very initial meeting to discuss that with lots of different service providers. And we're very happy to be able to deliver training for their staff in the award of education and training. We'll be able to offer venues across the county, and we'll be able to deliver courses suitable for the students, because it's the exact same model that we've been delivering through Learning Well. So it's almost like we've paved the way for them with the courses that we've been delivering over the last year with this project. And the project lead for the recovery college really can see that what we've been doing fits absolutely perfectly with their vision for the future. So we're very excited about moving this forward. Okay, Tracy? So, what we're interested to hear and share is what challenges have your project, if you were in the project, or your services, what challenges have you had in relation to mental health issues of both staff and your service users? We'd really appreciate some of your thoughts at this moment. You can either put the questions in the chat, or please just open up your mic and you can ask directly, that'd be fine.
Hi, it's Sue from Bury. We were in Group A as well, and initially we were quite nervous about the content of the courses as well, but our tutors, similar experience to yourself, our tutors rose to the occasion, and we kept a core group of tutors again that really got it, and we developed some really great provision, we feel, and the feedback from learners taking part was really positive, so that was great. Unfortunately for us, our partnerships didn't seem to work so well, which is a bit sad. It worked great with one or two, but others that we thought would be more forthcoming, it didn't seem to work so well with. So but that's really great to hear about partnership with the Recovery College for yourselves. That's really positive. Well done.
Like Houston, we had some partners that we worked with that were better than others. Some, you know, the ones we thought might traditionally work better didn't, and then others that they just flew with it, and they kind of really got what we were trying to do with the whole Group A remit, because we'd in year one had managed to sort of follow that Group C model almost, and weren't allowed to pursue that in year two. But it's about making sure that the partners that you work with were really had really bought into it on the right level. I know a couple of our tutors that initially were quite phased with that whole change, but actually we found that you differentiate for your learners all the time, and this was actually no different. It was, don't overthink it in that first instance, and just make sure that you're supporting your learners as you would traditionally, because on any community course, as I'm sure you're all aware, you're going to get people with lots of different needs, whether that be mental health or learning needs, and you adapt and you support those learners anyway. It's just that this was under that remit.
Okay, so moving forward to our attitude to the challenge. How did it help us move forward with what we were doing?
For us, it actually helped us target more men in our area. I know within community learning that's a challenge for all of us, and it's a challenge for the NHS equally so. We had the same conversations with our local recovery college, our local NHS support networks. We had connections with mental health nurses, and their remits were all the same. I went to a couple of conferences locally about mental health, and for all of them the big remit was actually targeting and engaging with men. So for us it meant that we were able to perhaps put on courses that specifically supported those, and we found that although, like most things, some courses were more successful than others, and some only ran once because of poor intake, we did have some that actually did attract men. Now that might have been because the tutors were male and that they had some connection there. For others it wasn't. We also worked with the local football club, who were able to deliver some learning that, again, we asked them to specifically target the male audience, so we knew that we could get out there, and using sport as the hook, they could do that. And we actually our engagement was an awful lot better locally. In year two, our engagement with the male population was 52% women, 48% men, which was really, really good, when the NHS average was 65-35% split. So the engaged part of it, we felt worked really well. Keeping them and getting them onto course, we had 59% women, 41% men. So that dropped slightly. Obviously, after the initial IAG sessions with them, getting them to stay on programme was a bit more difficult, but the engagement part of it worked really well. So we know that we can get get to them. It's just now looking at a model that can maybe support their needs a bit further moving on. The IAG for us actually helped us make sure we had the right people on the course, and if we'd done a really good session with them, we knew that if they'd come through the IAG and they actually started the course, that they were more likely to finish the course. But again, it did sort of show us that after that initial engagement that we did have quite a high dropout of people, but that might have been because then they realised that the course wasn't for them. So it worked in two ways. It worked the fact that we were able, those that we got on course stayed on course, but it might have meant that our dropout was less because they didn't move on from IAG following that. So, Patricia.
Okay, so we found that having a smaller group of tutors worked so much better in respect of our quality control. It saved so much time in administration, and it left us more time to support tutors. The tutors really enjoyed the delivery style of the courses. The courses were 5 to 6 weeks and either 2.5 or 3 hours a week, and they all had a social element within that. So they all had a break, and they had tea and coffee and shared biscuits or cakes and so forth, sometimes some fresh fruit. So they had a social element within that. We really encourage that in adult education. We try and have cafes on site. We have sort of breaks within our courses just for a little bit of interaction without the learner environment being present. And that really is a really positive part of adult education. The positive attitude to the teaching, the project and the paperwork just brought really good results for us in terms of numbers. Numbers of people attending, retention and positive student feedback. We had a really, really high rate of IAG converting to course sign up. There were very few people that came for IAG that actually didn't sign up for the courses, so that was really good. We managed to exceed our target of learners completing the courses, so we saw that as a massive success. And I think our positive attitude, the attitude of the tutors and everyone within the college as being so enthusiastic about what we were doing really helped. Everybody had a real passion for what they were providing. The positive attitude with new projects and partnerships was also really good. We're planning for the momentum generated within the Learning World project to continue into the next academic year and beyond, and we are using elements of the courses we delivered to keep these partnerships going. We work with many groups across Kent. We worked with people like Kent Association for the Blind, Age UK, the U3A, RBLI, Leonard Cheshire Disability. We also worked just with our general public. We offer courses to the general public who are our core learners, and many of them became involved in the project and were very interested in the project as well. We also had members of our staff joining on courses and finding that it was really beneficial for them, for their well-being and their mental health. So how did your project respond to the challenges? Also, are there any questions? Or we'd really like to hear what you feel the attitude is within your service, your company, towards mental health. How you think people view it? How do you think that your company, your employer is very supportive? And how do people feel within that environment? So if you could give us some feedback as to how you feel that is within your service, we'd really appreciate that.
I have got a question in the chat, Patricia, first. It's from Sally. She said that I'd said that some of our tutors were men. She's asking if we also had men delivering the IAG sessions. Yes, we did. Moving on, we did have 3 men regularly doing IAG sessions. And at one point, an additional one came in and did some for one of the projects. That wasn't as successful when it came to dealing with women in that process. So they had to sort of make sure that they booked the right appointment for the right learner. But yeah, we did have men delivering IAG as well, and I think that made a difference.
That's really interesting. We had a man lined up to do a lot of our IAG, but unfortunately he couldn't in the end. And our rate was about 66% women, 34% male. So having men in that initial process, as has been demonstrated by Tracey's project, is very positive in bringing men in. So I think that's something that we all need to think about moving forward. We do have quite a few tutors within our service, but I think we do have a predominance of female workers within adult education in Kent.
We do have another question in a chat.
In both kind of sections of the webinar so far, you've both talked about how positively staff tutors responded. What is it about the approach that made them feel so committed, do you think? What have you changed in the way you've delivered the service? I mean, I understand that you've designed programs and so on, but there's this thread of tutors being key, but also tutors feeling very positive about it. Can you unpack a bit of that, please?
I think for us it was because some of the partners we worked with, it was just that they were able to support the learners in a different way that they'd not traditionally been able to do it. We subcontract some of our work out to as part of the Community Learning Trust, and we work with people that work with harder to reach learners. So they work with the homeless, they work with people that English is their second language. But it was the fact that we were able to offer things that weren't upskilling on maths, upskilling on English, the traditional community things. It was about supporting their well-being, and they were able to be quite passionate about they can support their learners and their cohorts in a slightly different way that maybe before they get to progressional learning they have to address first. And that's and because of the nature of the learners that they work with, they're passionate about that anyway, and passionate about supporting people and making those progressions. That's what worked. It was because they could see that there was a real benefit to addressing and supporting people's well-being, because if they can't support that, they can't move them on to employment, they can't move them on to studying your more traditional things that they have to learn. They can't, they can't hope to look for jobs if their well-being is not in the right place. So they could see a real need to support that element first.
So have you been able to kind of identify a bit of a profile about the best kind of tutor? What are the kind of person specifications you'd want to draw up in future if you wanted to enroll staff?
For us, I think it's just someone that's really empathetic, not very judgmental, and has got more of a rounded approach. So it's not just about the subject you're teaching, it's about having what we do in adult learning, it's about meeting their needs, and it's about being able to sort of detach slightly from, the traditional maths, English, ESOL, whatever. It's about that, so more of a holistic, rounded approach, and being able to address that and not being afraid to unpick certain things. I'm saying it's about that whole differentiation that we all do anyway, but it's about being able to, nurture someone and look beyond maybe their issues and things, and saying, right, how can we help you get to where you need to be a lot more.
Thank you. I
think we did specifically choose tutors that we knew were empathetic, maybe had a little bit of past experience, but we also did give some mental health training to those tutors as well. And I think that really helped, because they knew what they were looking for, they knew what to do in certain instances. It gave them more knowledge, and it empowered them to be able to not brush things under the carpet, because quite often when you say mental health, people go and get a little bit frightened about it. There's a lot of stigma. We were breaking down those barriers all the time, and the tutors were really on board with that, and that really, really helped. We are going to, as a legacy of this, we are doing mental health training at the moment, and we are going to train all our staff in mental health first aid, mental health light. Our tutors have been asking for this for the last couple of years. So I think, helping to train tutors to understand and know what to do in situations has really empowered them, and it made the students feel safe, made the students feel able to discuss things that they might not be able to discuss beforehand. But we really empowered the tutors to empower the students to feel safe, secure, and to try to break down those stigma and those barriers. So again, some of it's down to personal your personal strengths, and some of it is down to the training that we were able to give to our staff.
Yeah,
Good, thank you.
same for us really. You promote safeguarding in all lessons, and it's no different really. You're making them feel that the environment is safe to share things, and why not make it safe to share their mental health concerns? And it was, so for us it was the same. And again, like Patricia, we're looking at putting in additional training still moving forward for staff, just to make sure that everyone feels comfortable moving forward.
Great. Jan, would you like to move on to your next question, or?
Well, if it's relevant at this point, my question is about how you captured the difference that it's made to the learners. But you may be covering that later on.
The difference was covered on the GAD7 PHQ9. People were asked to fill out a wellbeing questionnaire at the IAG session, at the beginning, at the middle and at the end.
Okay.
All this data has been uploaded and it will be made available when it's all been processed.
Okay.
So we could also obviously got the initial feedback. We'd often go into classes and talk to people and see how they felt. We also did something called a day in the life, which was a snapshot of how people felt all across the country on one particular day. And that data is being analysed at the moment as well. And these will all be available eventually on the MHFA website.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
And for some of us, we've got a few case studies that we were allowed to publish that obviously is direct anecdotal quotes from learners and things like that.
Yeah. Lovely. Thanks.
So, success. Did we succeed? So, over to Tracey.
Yeah, fingers going quick there. So for us, actually, it made our project much more interesting moving forward into year 2. It gave us more diversity, say within the courses we were able to offer. It gave us a better opportunity to develop greater networking opportunities and links across the town. So we worked far closer with the DWP, we worked far closer with GP surgeries, the mental health nurses locally, because they get people coming in all the time that are referred to them that don't quite meet the remit yet for NHS intervention, so they were able to signpost learners out to us. It did mean we could expand our provision and look at offering a wider range of courses, so some of which we want to carry on using. For us, we're still continuing to monitor learners' wellbeing. As a result of that, the people that did really well last year are carrying on with changes to their courses. So moving forward, we are able to still offer courses that support people's wellbeing, and they're going to monitor the learners' wellbeing using the PHQ GAD7 forms, as well as other tools that they used within that. We're still going to use the Discovering Potential model because that worked really well for some of them. We've currently got 3 courses running in schools, so we're looking to move more into sort of that type of provision, supporting parents to support their children and vice versa, and just looking for other sort of options that we can continue to do that. And on a personal level, it's given me so much more opportunity. I've had to I sit on a couple of boards now locally. I'm on the Recovery College board locally. There's a couple of mental health boards that I sit with, so that it's still keeping us present out there. And I've actually loved being part of the project. It's pushed me and my boundaries beyond belief. I've had to get used to lots of other technologies to support things. So all the data, I had to get used to that, used to using online meetings like this. And it's just done, it's been able to sort of say, right, actually we can use this with our learners, and we can do this and we can do this. So it's provided lots of other opportunities and visions that we can use moving forward, I think. Patricia.
Wow, our Group C 50-50 split worked really well for us, and we delivered what we generally deliver in community learning and skills. The project showed us that adult education is absolutely one of the really good places for people with mild to moderate mental health conditions to gain skills they need to move forward towards positive mental health. we found it was so positive. It was an excellent blueprint to roll out into the community learning and our family learning. I'm working very closely with those teams now so that we can incorporate a lot of the things that we've learned along the way into those courses. We have these amazing new partnerships that we can move forward. And I'm also going back to all the partners we worked with before. We've got some other projects that we can work with them to help support, and we can put that supportive mental health element in there. I'm doing the mental health first aid training at the moment, and we're going to roll it out, as I said, across the whole service. It's been so positive. It's been hard work, and I've learnt a lot, as Tracey has said. It's been a very uphill learning curve, but it's been really rewarding. Fantastic knowledge I've got along the way. I've met some incredible people, and I did just see a question flash up there from Katina saying, would I do it again? Yes, absolutely, and I think Tracey, you'd probably echo me.
Yeah, definitely, because I think also as a result, my learning is still continuing as a result of this project. Like Patricia, I'm signed up to do the mental health first aid trainer in the new year with a view to help support our staff and the local community more. And I think also the other part of that question, would we be offering what we're doing now without the research? No, there is a big element of what we're offering currently that we wouldn't be doing if it wasn't for the research, because for us it's very different to what we would have traditionally done. So it's enabled us to expand our provision without a doubt. So, you know, as long as the funding is there, we will continue to explore different avenues to support, you know, local people, really.
Absolutely. So, to our next slide.
Patricia mentioned the Recovery College. Luton has been part of the Bedford Borough Recovery College since its launch just about 18 months ago. However, there is a lack of funding locally, and that's a big factor. But we found that the stuff that we want to offer as Luton Adult Learning is very different to the model that Bedford is currently offering. That is very medical based. It's done through the NHS. They're very big on every session being co-produced, although they tend to be one-off sessions, whereas the sort of things that we want to offer locally are more course-based, so it's still based on that sort of roughly 15 to 20 hours of learning. So it's very different, the vision that we have for Recovery College in Luton, but we're working in partnership with the sort of that support network to look to see what we can do to make a Recovery College work in Luton, because there's so many different elements of provision in Luton. We have a local mind that are really great with the stuff that they offer and the learning that they offer. We also have the Luton Wellbeing Services that also offer courses that don't traditionally fit in with the Recovery College model that Bedford have started, but we feel that there's a need locally to do that and move forward and support that. We also have places like Active Luton that offer lots of sports-based things that can help people with mental health issues. So it's about pulling together something that mirrors what they're offering in Bedford, but actually then works for the people in Luton. And I know Patricia's really keen to kind of get involved with their Recovery College, and I would say, yeah, definitely go for it, but just look at what works for you and works for the people that are going to access that. We do offer some one-off sessions, and maybe that's the hook to get people into a longer course, but we want to still be able to offer those longer courses that can help people better manage and give them strategies that they're not going to get in a one-off session, 2 or 3 hours. They're not going to get those strategies to help them move forward and progress. Whereas we think that if you have that longer course, they're going to be able to make connections, build friendships, and then find strategies that then can help them perhaps into further learning and signpost them onto other things. We have to just be really mindful that there isn't an overlap, that we're all offering the same thing, which can happen because we have, Live Well Luton that look at lots of health-based things, but more physical health rather than mental health. But it's just looking at how we can all make it knit together so it supports people locally. Patricia, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're looking at working in partnership to deliver some of the courses at the Recovery College that people initially will step into, possibly with free delivery, possibly going on to paid delivery as well. And we already have 2 projects. We have our family learning and we have our community budget, and my manager is really behind me in this mental health delivery, embedding it in all of the courses that we deliver, but also using it, some of our community money to move that forward as well. I think that it's paramount that we don't lose sight of the fact that we are adult education, and that we're looking to educate people on all different levels. And I think mental health awareness is one of the really important things that we have gained from doing the project, and something that we will really keep close to our hearts and keep moving forward. It's such an important part of what we do that I think that we're really going to hold that close to our hearts as we move forward. Okay, Tracy, I think there were a couple of questions in the chat.
Would you like me to read those?
If you could, Yo-Yo, that would be really helpful.
Yes, it is. One of those is about, would it be possible to sustain the work under the usual adult learning budget? And that followed on from, you know, when you talked about what difference is made and how it's informed what you're doing at the moment and what you're planning to do in the future.
Absolutely. Well, as I said, we're going to, in our community budget, we are going to incorporate some of this. So we've not got any more funding. It's just about using the funding you've got really wisely. We can deliver through our community budget some of this mental health awareness that helps people to be empowered to come forward with and help themselves. But I think embedding it in what we do already. So we're not necessarily putting on, oh, this is a separate section about mental health. It really needs to be embedded with everything that we do, because it is of paramount importance. And if we can do that, then it just helps the community as a whole. People look towards adult education for something more than learning. They look for friendship, they look for purpose. And we know that we're very good at that community aspect of learning. So this just helps us to be even better at what we're doing.
Yeah, I totally echo what Patricia said. But also, you know, budgets change all the time. So it's also that looking at to see where else we can go out and draw down funding from to support a need that we know is there. So if budgets change in the future, it's about being creative in where we go and look for additional funding to help support learning, to help embed that into it, I think.
I had recently at a networking meeting met someone who had some funding and some money, and we're looking at working with a partner organisation to go and actually deliver, you know, mental health awareness courses in the community as well, doing that under the adult education banner, which I think is a very positive move forward, and we're in the process of that now. So as Tracy said, we are always looking at education for additional funding, different funding. So we need to keep our eye open and see who we can work with to move this forward.
And Annette made a comment in the chat as well that where she is, it's raised their profile, and they would definitely do it again. So because they've been able to offer courses that they might not have been able to offer. Yeah.
And that's Kingston Adult Education.
There's a question here from Sally, I believe. As you roll the lessons learned from the project across your community courses, what specific key things will you be taking forward? Many years ago, when I was teaching literacy and numeracy, we had a tea break mid-session, and I saw real benefit in these because they build friendships, peer support, reduced anxiety for students returning to learning, but they were dropped, seen as unnecessary in a 2-hour course. Well, we haven't dropped those actually, Sally. We embed those in majority of our classes. There's the odd art class that don't want to go for their tea break, but the option is always there. Some of the classes people have a little bit more interaction in with others, but we make sure we have a cafe facility on site, maybe not a full cafe, but even if it's just an area people can sit in, and we do include that as part of our delivery, even if it's a 15-minute break, and we have areas that people can meet up before and after classes. which is why the adult education environment has been so beneficial for these courses, because we have those facilities there.
Yeah, and likewise with us, we offer it. They sometimes choose not to, but you find that, you know, there's natural breaks in the session where they're able to have a bit of a chat, and often that is before or afterwards. But for us, we still offer them a quarter of an hour break. We get them to negotiate what they want to do with that. So hopefully that can continue.
Okay, well, it's nearly quarter past now, so if we're going to just quickly go through the conclusion and wrap up, Tracey, is that okay?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so outcomes. We hope that the project outcome will generate future funding in the area of community learning and adult education for mental health and wellbeing, and we hope that we can look for different pots of money, but also embed it into everything that we do. We have diversified and challenged ourselves as a service, and we've really improved our delivery model on our journey. We've had a massive access to so many people's different views, opinions, what has and hasn't worked. So we've managed to really share good practice and things that don't work fantastically on a weekly basis. That's been really, really helpful. And our legacy, Tracey?
We would like the legacy of our projects to make us sort of think that there is an alternative approach, an opportunity for people. So we found that, you know, we did struggle initially with talking about the whole mental health element, but actually, you know, for a lot of the people that has been the hook that's drawn them in, as long as it is through learning but not therapy. And you've made that really clear, that you're learning how to manage something, and we're not here to give you the medical interventions, but, you know, engaging with like-minded people, engaging with learning, that can help you manage and improve your well-being.
Absolutely. And as Katina has put in the chat there, over the last year, Tracey and I have both had Ofsted into our colleges, which is always an interesting experience. We had the most positive feedback from our Learning Well project. They were really, really pleased with what we did. And they said we had delivered excellent service through that. So that was really, really positive.
Yeah, and although ours has not officially been posted, we did get lots of positive feedback on the type of learners that we were meeting and the impact that it had on them, because obviously that's a big thing for them. What's the impact on the learner and what's the impact on the learning? And that we've been able to show. So that has been really good for us.
Okay, so to wrap up, did we turn our challenges into successes? Yes, I believe we did. So thank you very much for your time, and I don't know if you want to just quickly have a look in the chat, Yara, and see if we've missed anything.
Yeah, the Global Report on Adult Learning and Education, known as GRAIL, reported on the impact of, it was across 39 countries, maybe that figure's wrong, but certainly a significant number, how that's the impact of adult learning on health. One of the key things was social capital. So we talk about human capital being our skills, social capital being networks and friendships, whether they're related to family, friends, work or whatever. And so one of the things that you've kept talking about is kind of friendships. You talked about the social aspect and so on. So I think it's really important that we consciously build that in, rather than at the cost of focusing only on the skills or knowledge or aspects of what we're doing. Since that is so vital an outcome, then getting rid of things like your coffee breaks is a very negative part of the process for me.
Absolutely, and I think that has really been identified, especially over the year of doing this project. It's been shown to be so paramount that I think that's a really, really valid point. Thank you.
We found that a lot of learning happened in a lot of valuable learning happens in those coffee breaks that you don't have to measure as a particular learning outcome, but there's lots of things that can be drawn from that, and lots of support that learners get from just those 15-20 minutes in a conversation with each other.
But kind of what you said, that you don't measure, I think sometimes the challenge is, I think that we have to be demonstrating that those things are as important as gaining knowledge and skill. because we are, you know, human beings are social beings, and we need to be skilling our tutors to build those social capital, because that's what builds our resilience. That gives us the networks to whom we can turn to when times is tough, and equally when times is going well.
Not for this project, but for our community learning, we do a measure that's wider outcomes, that looks at the whole social element of things, just because we know it's there, and it's part of an additional thing, an additional monitoring that we do, and that's something that we're now starting to get comparable data that we can compare, because we've done it for the last couple of years, and that's something we continue to do with our community learning trust, because like you say, it's those unmeasured outcomes that actually are often just, or are as important as the ones that the learning outcomes that they come along for, and that needs to be shown. So that's something that we do.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, we also have a project called Supporting Self-Organised Learning, where we go out into the community and just give people a little snapshot of what learning's about. And we found this is really powerful. A lot of people have moved that forward and formed their own groups from that, support groups and support networks. And we're very aware of the fact that, you know, it can be very supportive in just spurring people to move forward into having their own support network as well. And that's really, really positive.
Great, colleagues.
Thank you.